Hello, I'm Dan Corcoran of Safe Paul, welcoming you to the HFMA Metro New York Area podcast on the Touchless Revenue Cycle with Andrea Rivera and Cristina Edwards.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everybody. We're really excited to present to you today on the path to the touchless revenue cycle. In researching for this podcast, I read an article that said 30% of US healthcare spending is waste, according to an estimate by the National Academy of Medicine. And that really got me to thinking about there have to be ways for us to reduce costs and improve productivity in the revenue cycle portion of things. If you've ever tried to explain revenue cycle to someone outside of the industry, they really think of it as something that's very simple. They go to the doctor, you pay your copay, it goes to your insurance, they pay the rest of the bill, and that's it. Everything's over and done with. But those of us in revenue cycle know that it's not really that way at all. There are so many processes that happen in revenue cycle to get that bill out the door and to handle the things that happen when it comes back. We have charge capture, insurance verification, concurrent review and authorization, billing and edits, rejections, denials, follow-up. So there's a whole host of things that are going on. I know that was a long list, but ultimately there are a lot of things happening in revenue cycle, and all of them give that opportunity to have waste and to have things that we really can improve to reduce those costs and your spending in the revenue cycle side of things. And we've begun to look to automation. We've definitely seen that start to accelerate since COVID hit. We've seen people using more automated processes, working remotely, and how that's really changed the dynamic and accelerated us on a path towards innovation. So we're really just going to talk today about how we can reduce costs, how we can improve productivity, and how we can get on the path to the touchless revenue cycle. We're going to start from an area that maybe most people don't consider as being optimal for bringing in automation and considering how we can use technology, which is the area of supervision and employee productivity. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cristina.
Thank you, Andrea. Hi, everyone. So I was presented with a question here of, is there room for RPA and technology with regards to productivity and performance? So when I thought about this question, I kind of wanted to go back to when I used to monitor something like this, and this used to be my responsibility. So my thought process on this was really first designating this particular task to a specific title. And when we talk about productivity and performance, what do we think of, or who do we associate this responsibility with? For me, I say it's usually your direct reports. And when we talk about productivity and performance, we're usually referring to the hands-on staffing. As one of my colleagues says, they refer them to the worker bees. And so who are their direct reports? And it's usually their supervisors. So then the next question to ponder with is, how effective is supervision these days? So I went on the internet in search of some up-to-date data, some articles, journals, anything that can speak to more of the modern day responsibilities of a supervisor. And I came across some funny comics. So I'm going to try my best to paint the picture and give you a visual of these comics. In one picture, it's a guy who appears to be a boss sitting at a desk, and there's an employee that's at a water cooler getting some water. And so the quote here is, do you realize that this month you've made 17% more trips to the water cooler? Then we have another comic here where it's an employee sitting at his desk working, and there's a man that walks over, and the man says, the security cameras are down, so I've been sent to stare at you while you work. So I did find these funny, but then it really made me question, is this what we are really doing? Are we truly consumed with the amount of time being spent at the water coolers? And would robotic process automation really be beneficial in this case then? I mean, you could use RPA to calculate that 17%, right? That the first cartoon was referencing. But then what benefit is that to revenue cycle? I mean, that employee could essentially be really good at what he does and just very thirsty. So what is the goal? That was the question that I kind of wanted to start with. What is the goal? So what are the goals set in place by leadership in an organization? So to name the basics, we have overseeing a specific team, ensuring performance and quality of assignments dependent on whatever workflow your organization has, identifying issues, and then, of course, creating the solution for those issues. So how does that tie into revenue cycle? Well, in revenue cycle, the goal is to monitor productivity, right? Volume, speed, quality assurance. How well is the team handling the inventory? You can be fast, but are you producing good results? How knowledgeable are you in handling the inventory? If the quality is there, then we should be identifying root causes in our accounts receivable to just improve the revenue cycle workflows in general. And so it's really important to understand the significance of the leadership roles in relation to revenue cycle as a whole. How much time is being spent here on staff performance, and what exactly are we spending our time doing? So traditionally, the old school way is you get a report and you get a listing of all the accounts that your staff is working or has worked the day before or worked towards the end of that day, and you QA. You're going one by one, making sure they've hit their expected numbers. Then you audit the work, right? Again, going one at a time. So the question here is, how do we utilize automation to tackle productivity and performance? One of them being a tracking system. So the first rule of integrating automation on productivity and performance would be to ensure that you have a platform that provides a tracking tool to monitor productivity. And the metrics that can be used in a tracking system are timestamps, account details, action details. So really it's a who, what, when, and where of an account, right? And aside from that, you also want to enhance this tool by creating a scoring system. So it's the how of the account now. So the scoring system is being able to generate a scoreboard based on the actions taken on a particular account, which really offers support in determining productivity satisfaction. So what are those metrics? It's a difficulty level of an account, quality determination. So what's really being done on an account? Are you appealing it? Are you fixing edits? Are you just doing a simple rebill? And really giving those things a score. So this really helps in validating productivity. Implementing automation for performance reviews really allows your leadership team to see an easier on the eye report of what your team members are doing on a daily basis. At a quick glance, you're able to see the amount of time in between counts, the amount of effort being taken, and determining if the difficulty level of productivity really lines up with the expectations for that day in general and overall. So now that we've freed up some of the time on the more tedious things by using our tracking system, using our scoring system, there's room now to really be more intentional about the quality assurance and the role that we play as management. So what more can technology offer us in this area? I think if this was a webinar, it would be a great part to put in the slide where it says, but wait, there's more. So now that our system can easily highlight problematic areas for a particular individual, we also want to use technology in our training methods. So primarily using training modules. So traditionally, the method of retraining was designed to or when we identify a weakness in any individual or particular team, and we provide them with a better opportunity to understand where we notice some area of concern. So in most situations, training courses is arranged as a large part of a given workflow, or if not the workflow entirety. So like when you first get hired, you're given a training on how we do things. So when we notice some areas of weakness, we kind of refer that individual or those teams back to that original training. But having a platform that redesigns the idea of training to a more instant and focus-based program, like short refresher courses, it can really provide major benefits to a large organization. So some of the key benefits of a technology-based training program are valuable time savings, immediate and instant retraining, tailored courses that are specific and focused on the areas of weaknesses, track and record keeping scoreboards. How many times is this individual taking the same courses over and over again? I mean, at the end of the day, the question was, can we use technology and RPA in this space with regards to revenue cycle? And my answer to that would be absolutely. Please do. We need to. Aside from time savings and the accessibility to, training programs, we really reap benefits of analytics and workflow improvement. Building a technology based on a performance and productivity program really allows for better analysis and root causes, identifying areas within an organization that have cause of concern. Where is the staff spending most of their time on and why? Using technology to track performance is extremely beneficial to workflow improvements. You can easily highlight areas where a revision to a workflow may be necessary, or where there could be even more room for automation. What kind of things is the staff doing repetitively over and over again? How do we automate that? So ultimately, the benefit is the bottom line, right? Increased revenue, less days in AR, and that is the goal. And I think that's what we truly all want.
Thanks,
Cristina, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
In this kind of a process, can you benefit from routing the work to people based on maybe their skills of dealing with large dollar amounts?
Absolutely. I think by using like the tracking system and the scoring system, you're able to kind of see where people's weaknesses are. You're able to see maybe somebody who moves a little faster versus somebody who moves a little slower. But then your highlight is, okay, why are you moving so slow? And you might notice that that person is just somebody who just goes really deep, right? They have their quality is extremely, what's the word I'm looking for, but good, right? So you might want to say, I want to put that person on my high dollar cases. I want to put that person on my inpatient. Maybe that person is not right for outpatient where we need the speed, but that person might do really well on an inpatient case where we do need that in-depth follow-up. We do need that extra mile. We do need to look further into why it's being denied or fighting with the insurance companies. So yes.
Do you attempt to figure out if certain people are better at working with certain carriers?
Yes. Once we do the quality assurance, right, and we're seeing, okay, somebody's moving fast, let's see what they're doing. It could be that somebody's just really good at their Blue Cross. They know the Blue Cross language. And so we're able to say, if this person's good at Blue Cross, and then even from there, it really highlights an area to give opportunity to the staffing. Maybe we put somebody in a training. Like as a vendor, we don't really have payer managers, right? But it is a place where we can say, this person is extremely knowledgeable in Blue Cross because of the way that they move those particular cases, right? So let's put that person to be the go-to for all our Blue Cross cases.
What's next, Andrea?
All right. So all of the things that Cristina is talking about are really leading us to discoveries and things that we're uncovering that help us in the process of automation. Part of it is really trying to learn from what people are doing. And that's really the root. That's the way we get to what we need to do next to move towards touchless revenue cycle or less touch revenue cycle for the time being, right? We start with things like rules-based automation. So we learn from what the staff is doing and we start to see what are those simple if-thens? What are the decision trees that we can begin to automate? If this, then that. Do we have that information in the system? Do we need to take an additional step to get to it? So just using that information, using what people are doing, talking to the staff, making sure that they're getting that right training so you see the consistency in their work. All of that ultimately puts you on a path where you're able to take those next steps. One of the most important things in AI and machine learning is the data that you're starting with. So if your staff is pretty consistent at doing the right thing, you're starting with some good data, and your AI and machine learning modules are really going to be set up for success because your staff is setting them up for success. So just considering the way proper supervision and learning comes from productivity metrics and productivity monitoring really can help you throughout your revenue cycle to enhance your automation and the ways that you're able to use artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, rules-based automation, and machine learning. What we've seen overall right now on the path to the touchless revenue cycle is that it begins with an understanding of where we are. And that really comes from what the staff is doing today, how we can use those metrics to get us there. And what we've seen also is that as we focus on automation, the roles of people in the process is starting to shift. So when we started our process at Zanus of moving towards more automation, our staff was really mostly billers or insurance follow-up representatives, people that were getting on the phone. But the insights that we got from the data have allowed us to move many of our staff over to becoming more business process analysts or analysts, because their role in the process isn't making that follow-up call. It's looking at groups of accounts and understanding what the next step needs to be. And that's really where revenue cycle needs to be heading, understanding what the trends are and how we can automate more of the process to get us to those next steps. So that component of the move towards automation, it's not necessarily the removal of people altogether. It's more a shift in the way they interact with the process and where they are in the revenue cycle. And ultimately, we think that benefits the staff because they're really seeing themselves as more important in the process and more like they impact the revenue cycle more when they're doing things at that higher level.
Should our employees be worried about losing their jobs to RPA?
You know, I don't really think so. What we're seeing is a shift in the way employees participate and interact in the process as a result of more use of AI and robotic process automation. But we're not seeing less people in. We're just seeing them being more effective and being used in different ways. So I think the shift will be to them being more on the analytical side of things and understanding and documenting the business process, as opposed to those more tedious tasks.
You're absolutely right about that. Well, thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Cristina, for your insights today. And thank you, audience, for listening to this podcast. And please do watch for more content from our educational committee. Thank you.